So here we go again. Yep, I'm starting another project before finishing the others. One of you fine people sent me a request to make a Plectrum Banjo neck to replace their original 5-string neck. And this is exactly the kind of work I love. So let's get started. You may have already seen a little of this in the recent inlay video. The inlay would be very difficult to do once the part had been cut, so let's do it first. Now if I mess it up, we will have a considerable amount of work to redo. And I'd prefer not to have to do that. So let's take it nice and slow. Take a deep breath in, slowly out. Now quick, let's cut this thing. The Plectrum Banjo was popular during the ragtime era, 1895 to 1919, and also during the jazz era, 1910 to 1930. The tuning for Plectrum banjos is just like that of its 5-string brethren, short that silly high string on the wrong side of the instrument. They are at times tuned the same way as the top 4 strings of the guitar. Some of the first innovators to drop the 5th string were vaudeville entertainers who sought a way to cut through the clamor of larger orchestras and found that without that pesky thing in their way, they could strum out a ruckus with full chords that cut through the uproar. What they came up with was an infectious rhythmic sound that would drive folks out of their chairs and onto the dance floor for years to come. At the time, the 5-string still ruled the scene, and these pickers were quite out of the norm, if there is a normal for a banjoist. As the 1800s turned to the 1900s, these vaudeville plectrum players would fade away into relative obscurity, but not for long. While the ragtime scene began to grow, the fingerstyle banjoists rode this wave of popularity, and as the dance band era emerged, these five-stringers would need to reinvent their techniques to stay relevant. And once again, the plectrum came out and helped form a rhythmic, contagious groove that fed the dance band craze, and once again filled the dance floors with a strummed syncopation. This time, banjo manufacturers began to respond to this not-so-new trend with the first all-purpose built four-string models. No longer did they have to shamefully remove this somewhat superfluous entanglement. These brave souls could now proudly walk the streets unhindered by the five-string status quo. As the trend grew, five-stringers would be picking up the instrument to get work in popular dance bands, and many a convert was made of the mandolinist as well. And eventually the tenor banjo, a four-string cousin, would be perfect for the mandolinist looking to make a bigger sound and maybe even get a few more gigs. Eventually the tenor banjo would outgrow its larger picked namesake and become the preference for musicians transferring from other instruments to the banjo. Through the 20s and 30s, the instruments remained popular, but eventually the smooth sound of the electrified guitars would take their place in the jazz scene, and the instrument would fade into relative obscurity. Maybe this video is what the instrument needs. Maybe we're on the precipice of a four-stringed revolution. There's only one way to find out. Find one, make one, give it a try. I'm sure you won't be able to put it down as easily as you picked it up.